ancestry's melanated. I am pure-blooded, I'm a dingo. Part dark, part wolf, part lion, part gringo. But my soul is God's property, God's particles, genuine article, aboriginal, Asiatic, Anunnaki, extraterrestrial. The mothership up in the sky at night. I see it through my pupils. Naga, Gugu, Indian, Levi, Hebrew, Tibetan monk, African herb man, the gumbo of the gusset, gas to breathe roots, stratified layers of my legacy, combine rich tribes into one non-famous breed. I can see who see through portals and vortexes. Meditation depth is deeper each moment. I untangle the devil's wishes to knock me out of this existence, physically murder me, spiritually speaking to demons and seeing the angelical part of the God body.
Spark like flash beamed out the darkness as it entered the body. Wise godly eyes with sharpness, perfect husk, so chakra open to use to spread the message of truth. Mine's the news. He used to pick locks, these dick cops with the chip sunglasses. See him hop fence hurdles, make you run fastest. Street codes learned, no fails, just passes. Stay hidden inside ice, star point tactics. Many devils around, I've been here before. With scales of law, I self am master and lord. Enter microphone portals, my tongue is a sword, still swinging till the end of from the beginning. In the ancient days, children never went missing unless money change the tables. We still do it today, vocal through my cables. No white flag waving, losses we take it, which is never. I will the future gets it together, sticks to the letter. Study the principles, so simple it can all be. They will hide the truth and call that history.
Right now, everybody trying to rap the same style with the, I don't know who created it, if it was Future or Migos, but all them niggas sound the same.
Yeah. I done figured this shit out of you bitches gon' bite on my swag as a virus. Oh,
Sachi for Sachi, Medusa head on me like I'm Illuminati. Post up and honest and shoot us a movie.
you been in the game like a year, some chilling, you feeling yourself, I'm killing these niggas like.
I don't know what I would do without a crew. Look like we robbed a bank, but all we make is deposits. Your profit with profit, oh God. My eyes are so bright, I take cover for shade. Don't have my money, take mothers instead.
I said, nigga had me in the studio one night trying to do that shit. I'm like, man, cut this shit off. What the fuck am I in here doing, nigga? I don't rap like that.
He said, what the fuck you got me doing?
This shit is addictive. This shit'll get you.
Yeah. Falling. Mike Kill, what up? We're gonna raise you up though. Oh, we're gonna raise you up. Yo. You might mumble while rehearsing or under your breath cursing. I mumble when I see pants sagging with a person. You call it a bag for your iPad. I mumble some more. Humble smashing your jaws off concrete jungle floors. Y'all mumble with no teeth after we swing these rap bats. Might kill and Morning Star Operation Kill mumble rap. Red rum for the wax lack. Spitting mumble rap crap. Old school carry deadlock scalps in knapsacks. Mumblers murmur like mama's parade in blackface. Zombies high up codeine in a packed place. All mumbling in circles running. Tail chasing wannabe masons. All they do is confusing the generations. It's walking like Jason when we chase them. Through their dreams on Elm Street. Pop the hatch and deep space them. Morning stars, the soul of hell's heat. Got their voice pacing. Kill yourself ritual with the guns you waving. Y'all ain't Scarfacing G-Rap. You suck the flaming. After Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, no angels saving. Just fallen angels. Mumble rappers undertaking. Mumble rappers, we just undertaking.
Stop acting like a nagger. You're about to get smoked out like fiends boiling booger to get coke out. I don't wanna hear you talk. My lyrics are right on cue like blue chalk. You say Black Lives Matter, meanwhile black music takes black lives faster than a white cop with a black gun getting hammered shooting nagger. And nobody figures why you deliberately make music that turns into niggers and then turn right around and ask you spectrum honkies with triggers because you're naggers. I don't think you're racist, man. If you're black, where is black? Is tan on the map? Parlay on that. Replace your culture with the color from a crayon pack. Stay on that. White people are right. Black lives don't matter and Jesus is white. Cause white people made them up, so the thesis is right. Don't blame Donald Trump, he is damn prop. Hand in ass, controlling him. Lamb chops, cats in hand. Muslims stand off, play along. Take the order back, Jews in football, scream, get the quarterback. Eminem wanna be bully, but he not a quarterback. He just rap evil prayers till you're taking long naps like black people's hair. You just sing a lame nagger song and wear your pants so low you turn the gay naggers on. Wake up. This is to the government, Yukon, the territories, natives have none of it. Fuck that shit, slavery hurts. Juju is a nigger cause slavery works. Young Ma is a nigger cause slavery's hers. Young Thug is a nigger, yup, slavery's first. Can't understand your slavery words. You can whip me in my ass, a mess. Slavery words. I put the boot inside my mouth, a mess. Slavery first. I put the hole inside the house, a mess. Slavery first. I praise Jesus on my knees, a mess. Look at all the niggers slavery birthed. If I was an American nigger, I'd know I was cursed. I do not know where to begin. Niggers are always the worst. Jesus is the devil in the Catholic Church. By the Son, God's chosen people don't get burnt. We get learned. God's chosen people don't get turned. We get learned. God's over evil don't get turned. We get learned. That slave talk is a myth. Smart people talking say the whole word like this. Acting like a nagger, you're about to get smoked out like fiends boiling booger to get coke out. I don't wanna hear you talk.
It's justice out of love, our truth is a lie. News. Mumble boys die choking on their Thanksgiving goose. Y'all kill Sean P and Guru like Canaanland Fubu. Woke up out the dream like who you? Good thing I do voodoo. Toward the frauds of hip hop, turn the locks and die in the purple. Congested or fleeing with your tight pants team of Urkels. No herbals, your sentence hot box with GMO herbals. Lashes from a switch you never heard of. For whack verses. And your belly top outfits and Gaylord dress codes. Make me squeeze your neck till your head and eyes explode. 9/11 mumble Negroes got them running like Snowden. After towers fell, the dust is saw fallen angels flowing. No lean with running, y'all niggas tripping. Voice of Westbrook, left hook, leave your nose like Pippin. Beads in your hair soon will be bubbles and ribbons. Poison mumble and rappers like Bell DeVoe and Pippin. Rep for Garvey and Andrew without the wig.
Say, Lil, you got a lot of talent, kid. You got a lot of talent. And I hope you have a good year. I hope somewhere you can find some heart and find some passion for the game and have a good year. I really wish you the best. Oh, I'm 40. Thank God I'm happy to see 40. Bum, I never been that. You know that. I'm from the old school, bro. I'm cut under the old law.
Backing like a nagger, you're about to get smoked out. Backing like a nagger, you're about to get smoked out. Like fiends boiling booger to get coked out.
Outlandish El Moro. What, bro? What is El Moro, bro?
El Moro,
Tell the
you know,
people in it, cause like,
Moros, because we're not from the U.S., so we can't say the N word.
oh, okay.
So Moro is, it's Spanish. It means dark skin.
Oh,
When they started to import all the Latin South Americans, the
Yeah.
Indians, they were a bit darker, so they called them Moros. Morena.
Yeah.
It means a girl with dark skin.
Okay.
Somebody Saloni, So that's
There
Moro.
you go.
So El Moro. So all my
Islam to all Moors worldwide. Peace and love. We're here for a pop-up one, because there's always ones out there trying to cause confusion. And like we always say, every time we bump into these people talking crazy about our birthright, us saying something is a teaching moment. We realize how people are waking up right now. Everybody wants to get their birthright. Everybody's realizing that there's something bigger than being black and came over here on slave ships or whatever. So they're seeking change. And people are getting caught up because they think that when they open the doors to liberation and find out that they've been lied to and they're really Moors and there's history and that people have not been telling them, they're going to start looking for people who have already been past these doors. And what they're going to find is a lot of confusion. One reason why there's confusion is there's no allegiance to Moorish activity that has longevity. The dues payers who've been paying dues since we were Negroes didn't even know about our birthright. People that once today wouldn't even hear about, wouldn't know about. So there's a foundation of people that have passed these doors that you should be looking to the foundation if you are in this realm of knowing who you are, knowing thyself. Now, whoever they are, Joseph Morrow and his boys, telling you who the Moors are, but using Moro instead. And then, moreover, they said that El Moro means also Moroccan people. Now, Noble Drew Ali told Moors that we're Moorish American because we're descendants of Morocco, born in America. So he was really saying that we're Moroccan. He wasn't saying that we're Moorish American. Because he knew the confusion that it would cause with us saying Moroccan and then these other pale people who are taking over the jurisdiction that are going to be saying they're Moroccan. So he used Moorish to show it's pertaining to people from Morocco. And when you study deeper, you find out that Morocco is also over here, not just over there. So that's why we're Moroccan. So if Morocco's over here, when we say Moroccan, we're also saying we're the Aboriginal indigenous people here. We're saying we're the first people here, the Moroccans or the Moorish Americans. But people want to make that a join. People want to make that a club. People want to make that a not birthright. Everything else, but it's not birthright. People want to be able to sell you that in forms of charters or in forms of paperwork or in forms of barcode cards or in forms of help you do some process to claim some straw and all that. But the bottom line is that it's birthright. So how you wield your sword would determine whether you block or get stabbed up. Because your birthright. And this is what the foundation taught us when we were brought into this. That there was very few people that you could point at and say those were dirty Moors over there, stay away from those Moors. Very few. Very few. There was more righteous Moors in 2006 and before than dirty Moors.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more. You have any interjections?
Nope, you're going in right now, Grand Chief. Going in right now.
So as Moroccans in Morocco, which is on this side, we know that we're heirs to the estate of the Moorish Empire. And we know that because that information was presented to us by Noble Drew Ali when nobody else presented that to us. Nobody else said, you're not Negro black colored, you're heirs to the Moroccan Empire, to us, other than him. And that you can see how much they're going at trying to stop people from clearly overstanding what Noble Drew Ali presented. They want the people lost.
Mm-hmm.
Because once the people are lost, then colonists has jurisdiction. Real simple. So this is about you going out and studying for yourself and finding out about what you don't know. And certain things that people put in the public and say that people should listen or consider things that they're saying is part of the confusion.
Because you have every novice out here thinking that they know something because they could push record or live on their computer or on their phone. They could push live. They're a scholar now. So
Yep.
we're going to review and critique because people think that they can talk slick, they can talk in code, and get away with
Which
their
is dirty.
and get away with their try to keep the confusion going when they realize people are becoming cognizant.
It's cool, right? So Islam. So one of the Islamism. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure you click like and share. All right. So one thing that's very important that I hope everybody gets, okay? Please be careful with the information that you come across on the internet. Even me, you know? Okay? Be careful. You need to research everything. And one of the good things to do is to actually get the prophet's material, whether you go into a temple or not. At least get that information from the temple. And one of the, there's three key things that you need to get. Every Moorish American, I don't care what your philosophy is, every Moorish American should have the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America.
I got
or the
that.
Seven Circle Quran or whatever. I don't have anything on me right now, like in front of me, it's all upstairs, but I will show it to you if I did. So the Holy Quran, everyone should have the Quran questions, right? Or Quran questionnaire. Some people call them the 101s, right? 101 questions. Everybody should have the Holy Quran, the 101s, okay? I don't care, once again, what your philosophy is, how you found this out, against the temple, whatever, I don't care. Every Moorish American should have those two things. And then the third thing, and there's actually more, but these three things are key. The third thing is just one sheet of paper. It's the divine constitution and bylaws, okay? Every Moorish American needs to have those three things. That's very important. It may sound really simple, but it's very important that you have that and that you take your time and look over it. You don't have to try to get it all in at once, but look over it over time. And the more you look over it, the more you'll start to understand it.
Now, this is how we know that Moorish Americans are taught by dirty Moors who've been infiltrated this thing. Now, Noble Drew Ali said enforce the Constitution. So we'll put that up there. Divine Constitution and bylaws. Noble Drew Ali told Moors that he prepared a Quran for them. So we'll put that up there. And Noble Drew Ali knew where we were as far as our frame of mind. So to bring us into Moorish information, he presented to us the 101 questionnaire for Moorish children, but it was for adults. So it was really for children, but it was for adults. Now, what they won't tell you about when he said, oh yeah, there's more, but you know, the three, whatever like that, because that's added teachings. Because they're trying to limit the information that the people are receiving. when Noble Drew Ali said that he took away all the secrets already, so they shouldn't be holding back anything. As much stuff that there is, he should be able to rattle off everything that there is that you should have from Noble Drew Ali. But two key pieces of literature from Noble Drew Ali that should be mentioned just as highly as the Quran and 101 questionnaire and all that, should be mentioned in the same breath, is the Moorish Guide newspaper and the Moorish literature. Now, why would these adepts teach him, don't talk about the Moorish literature? Because the Moorish literature has the letters that's supposed to be read every meeting that these people don't read.
Yeah.
Because the Moorish literature has divine warning from the Prophet to the nations to show you that Noble Drew Ali wasn't just talking to Moors only for them to get off their high horse, off their wooden horse, talking about they got some authority. It must always be presented, the Moorish Guide newspaper, because in the newspaper, Noble Drew Ali talked about literature being our most important weapon against these people.
Right. Right.
In that, nothing else has that except the paper. That's important.
Yep.
To our activity as Moors. So if Moorish Science Temple, if some Moorish Science Temple of Americas, if some Moorish Science Temple of Americas are not going to mention Moorish Guide newspaper, they might be against the Prophet. Just consider that they might be against the Prophet. Just for the simple fact that they don't mention the newspaper, which was a national newspaper that went all across the country, just like all other newspapers in the 1920s were going wherever. Okay, there was a paper called the Moorish Guide that was in circulation as well. Again, Moorish literature has to get mentioned again as an integral part of the information of Noble Drew Ali that every Moorish American should have in their possession. Because the Moorish literature goes into the laws laid down by the Prophet that these grand whoever's who've been around here for all these years keep telling you about Prophet's laws, but then all they show you is divine constitution and bylaws and Holy Quran, and that's it. But they keep talking about Prophet's laws. Well, it's in the Moorish literature, which again, they presented only to people who were adepts in the so-called adept chamber. When that was not supposed to be adept chamber information, that's membership information.
That's different.
On top of those two, you also have to throw in the mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood as literature presented by Noble Drew Ali. That's supposed to be going with the Quran to all these members, not just one by itself.
I never hear them talk about that book. They never talk about that.
Because that's only adept chamber. And this is the thing with the sellout. That they took the information that was the people's information, put it in the adept chamber, and then said that, oh yeah, it's only for adepts, and when you go to the adept chamber, don't say about anything that happened in the adept chamber or whatever. When these people are straight lying to people.
Right. That's proof of enslavement too. Because if you keeping that information held secret that help free your people, you keeping them enslaved.
Yeah. Which is why, again, like when you look at Moorish literature, they don't talk about that because that has to do with the letters to be read that they don't read, which lets them know about the corruption. Lets the members know about the corruption right around them, that they better keep their eyes open because this is their birthright. This is not some join up to something and because you paid some dues, you're straight. This is life. Your life. Forget anybody else that says that they're Moor or El Bay or whatever they want to say as their appellation. If they know they're not Negro, black, colored, and that they're Moors, they're on their own journey. But know that some people's path has been laid for them. And those people's path is what deviates people away from the Prophet. Because the proof is in everything that he presented, not some things being more important and then other things being, no, everything. And anybody playing hide and go seek with Noble Jwali stuff is playing, this is a club. Anybody. Any book that they got that's too sacred for you to get because you're not the whatever, then they're playing church.
Right.
Because why shouldn't the people have the information? Let them read it and say, oh, this is too deep. I can't read this right now, and put it down for themselves. Don't judge that they can't get it. Well, they're not ready for it, so they can't get it. What do you mean? That might be the return of whatever ancient, whoever that was a master of that thing right there.
Yep.
And then you cut him off from being himself. Now he's fighting, trying to be himself, trying to be his birthright doesn't work. He give up on this or whatever because somebody playing ego with people.
Yep.
Opposed to leaving them to their birthright. This is strictly not some type of club join because you have some papers and a card. If you have papers and a card, those things are relative to nationhood, not some club that you join. If you think that is because some club or you join some temple or whatever, you're completely mistaken as to what those things are. And you probably need to go study a little bit more. It's not a diss. That's just what it is. Because again, from the foundation, we learned that our problem is misconcepts. We're not dumb, but we just have wrong concepts. So everything's off now. No, we say that's what it is. We were taught that our issue is misconcepts. We're not dumb people. We're not ignorant and incompetent because we want to be. We're trained to think like that.
Yep.
We as a people are intelligent people. When you see a crackhead put his hand on the engine and just and the car works, trust me, we're intelligent people. Our attention is constantly diverted from exercising our intelligence. And these so-called adepts and whatever like that, they know that, which is why they send other people out to do their stuff. Because again, we've been around long enough to know who's real, who's faking out here. Because action talks, and only certain people have been doing certain work relative to Moors and their birthright. That's it. It's not a diss to anybody else who didn't whatever, but you're late. Sorry. Don't get mad. Think because you know some new words or whatever like that, that you're gonna convince somebody to chase after you or whatever. This is about nationhood. And standing up for everything that's about nationhood. And again, this other thing that they like to do.
is that they send these people out here to do their work, and then they're making themselves look incompetent. When we know that this is how they're taught, why is there no references? Why? How come all these people who's doing classes or whatever like that, they're never giving you any references? Just going off the top. And then again, when they give you whatever message is that they're giving you, it's from a misconcept. So now the message means nothing anyways. Because if it's about birthright, it's about people finding their own way. You can't tell them how to find the way to their liberation. Their liberation is their business. You know what they want. All we are is a guidepost. Hence Moorish Guide newspaper. It's just guiding you. You're doing all the stuff. The tour guide is just guiding. You're not doing anything. You could do what the hell the tour guide's doing. What you mean? You don't need them. But again, that's our conditioning. That we need a middleman. Which is why certain people were turning over the money changers or whatever, because they're trying to play middleman between you and your divine self. And don't want you to find your own way to your divine self. Now, when I was talking with Moor earlier today, Moor said that Grandma said, I don't know what this man was talking about, but there's this man, Noble Ali, that you just probably researched him or whatever. And Grandma was on some, she's Cherokee, she's Chippewa, she's some Aboriginal indigenous tribe of whatever. But Grandma's telling the grandchild, oh yeah, I just remembered, don't forget, this man named Noble Ali. I can't remember what it is that he did, but he did something for us. That you make sure that you go check him out. But she's Cherokee or whatever. She's got all these black indigenous whoever's they're claiming that they are. Now, I'm going with her before any of these guys on YouTube who claim that they're whatever but not Moors. I'm going to rep with the matriarch. Now, she probably knows what was going on, being that she's matriarch. If she knows enough to know that she's Cherokee and whatever, not black and all that, and teaching the grandchildren, you're not black and all that stuff. You're Cherokee. You're black Indian. But you know what? Make sure you go check Noble Drew Ali and what he taught. Like, people were told this information, took it, did whatever that they were gonna do, and then now people are fishing for information because, like we said, they realize that this stuff is BS, and all they're finding is confusion. All they're finding is confusion. Them going to these places, some of these places called Moor Science Temple, and so disgusted with what it is that they're based on their research. When they put their research next to when they went to the temple, the stuff doesn't match up. And almost made them leave mentally, abandon their own birthright because of somebody else. Then you're not supposed to influence somebody out of them exercising their birthright. That's not yours to do that. And we told people a long time ago, hey, if you want to go mess with those package whoever's, go right ahead. Don't worry, you'll be back. Go ahead. You're not here to save anybody. You're going to save yourself. We're just the guide. And anybody playing that this is not your birthright, this is some stuff that they gave you because they gave you a card, so you're part of them, and you better leave them ASAP. Because they're probably about to sell you to the highest bidder. There's a lot more. You straight?
Islam. Real quick, Green Sheet, because another thing is too that's very important is they never speak about civics, even though the Prophet set up a civic organization first, but they never speak about law. They actually, when you bring up civics, I mean, in his own video, if you check the comments, he even say he can't give out legal advice. But the Prophet started a civic-minded organization. He told you to enforce the Constitution, but they don't even the temples or whatever. The people in the temple. I'm not gonna say the temple. I'm gonna take a page from Set and Rock. I don't have a problem with the temple. It's the people in the temple who've been in it for years and just coming out of the woodwork now because of Moors who've been going hard on, promoting us getting our birthright back. Put pressure on them, and now they're starting to make videos. But these so-called temples been around since they assassinated Noble Drew Ali. They just didn't go hard with the promoting of nationality and birthright. But those temples are still around. But my thing is, like, big time, they never speak about civics. And the other thing too, is when they always tell you have to come to the temple in order to proclaim your nationality. Like, I have all the problems in the world with that, because that's like contradiction to everything, because we always say, the Prophet teaches you're not Negro, colored, black, or Ethiopian. Them saying you have to come to the temple to proclaim your nationality. If you don't, that means you're still black, even though the first thing y'all say is you're not Negro, colored, black. But if I don't come here to this place here, I'm still black. Like, that's a contradiction to everything that they say. Like, how can you say that and then say, well, but you got to come to the temple to change all that? How? Why? That's contradiction to everything you're saying. That means that the people stay black. How can that happen? How can somebody stay a color? That's a big problem too. That the two major problems I have is that they don't never, what the Prophet told them to do was to enforce the Constitution. They never want to speak about that. And my thing is too, also, is if, okay, say everybody goes to those temples or whatever, that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And, people start paying their dues to these temples and stuff. Like, everybody's there. Now what? What are we doing? What are we doing? Keep reading Noble Jew Ali quotes and that's it every day, and keep paying dues. That's church, man. Like nothing. You can't go. We're not enforcing the Constitution. Nothing. We just keep coming here to this place every Friday. We just keep coming here and paying this guy to go up there, read the Circle 7, and that's it. They don't go out and enforce the Constitution. No way, form, or how. Like I never see it. Again, I haven't heard nothing from none of these temples since active Moors like Canaanland Moors, Harvey Bay Publications, Taj, Nature, all like now I hear those temples coming out, like because y'all pulled them out, and now they try to make it. But then when you see what they're doing in their temple, they and then they get frustrated when more say it. But y'all doing church, that's what they're doing, trying to get their membership up. I remember when I used to work downtown or whatever at the cigar spot. The pastors used to come in there. Only thing he used to talk about was how they need to improve their membership, how you got to get their membership up. Asking us how many members we got, like how y'all get members here. So they trying to think of ideas to get members, because it's all about membership. To keep paying, the more members you get, the more people who can pay. Now when I watch, and that's what they do, man. All of them. I mean, they're just like the pastors and stuff like that. They're in there playing games, trying to make people come to the temple to proclaim their nationality. And if you don't, you still Negro, colored, black. And then not enforce, and then making it seem like Moors who enforce the Constitution, temple Moors, temple people who are in the temple say that active Moors who enforce the Constitution are sovereign citizens. Like they push that, knowing that Noble Drew Ali said to enforce the Constitution. Anybody who's enforcing it, who speaks of, like jurisdiction and, knowing what licenses are and stuff like that, and knowing before even all of that, that these are foreigners are in our ancestral estate. And people who are in the temple are saying we should get licenses from these colonizers on our ancestral estate. People in the temple, heads of temples, push that and say that Moors who don't agree with that, getting licenses from colonizers, they're against the government. They push that. The same, that's incredible to watch that. And then they come on here, and first thing he puts in his comments, Moore asks him for some advice. This guy puts in his comments, he can't give out legal advice. So if you can't give out, which we know legal is two different things, is legal and lawful. But we're going to correct it. We're going to say lawful. If you're not giving out any civics, any lawful advice to anybody to help them uplift, to help, what is y'all doing? What are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing now? If it's not about helping people in law, which law governs everything, what are you doing? That's why I'm like, they kill themselves just by the way they talk and what they write.
Yeah. And again, when people realize that it's their birthright, they take things into their own hands. They start realizing that it's theirs, and only ones who are on that same frequency would be able to represent you. If you don't want to represent yourself. A lot of the confusion could be directly to mislead the people. But majority of it, these people have people behind them. They have, for example, like for somebody to say, like Moor said that consular court was telling people, go get your proclamations from RV Bay and then bring them to the consular court and let the consular court send it out for you to the locations that it's supposed to go to. No, those are your papers. How's that for you, but somebody else is sending that out on your behalf?
Right.
When that's supposed to be yours. That this is nationality and birthright. So this is your birthright that can be sold. Just keep in mind that it's yours. As soon as you start playing club, join up, or because you joined up, whatever, know that they're not dealing with birthright.
All right. And another way that you can learn more about it and it can help you understand would be also congregating with other Moors, sheiks, and whatnot that are in temples, so that you can ask questions and things like that. But that's fine, because I know a lot of people, may not feel comfortable even joining temples, whatever. But you need to have the Quran, need to have the Quran questions, the 101s, and you need to have the divine constitution and bylaws. You have to, because first off, these are the laws. Even the Quran questions. These are our laws for our nation that our prophet, our divine and holy prophet, brought to us. Okay, all right. So you need to have those, and then two, they help you move around out here and know what's real and what's not. They help you know what's real and what's fake. There's some people out here, they're, doing what I'm doing. They're on YouTube, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, all this stuff, and they're talking a good game. And they might even throw Prophet Noble Drew Ali out there every now and then. It sound like they're on point and they're just really with the Prophet and genuine and really about the movement, but they're not. But if you have that material and you're seeing what is and what is not part of the actual, see, a lot of you don't even know what the Prophet set up is called the Moorish Divine and National Movement, right? So some of the things I'm teaching you, you wouldn't even know if you're not like in the temple, right? Because a lot of people, you find out about this stuff online, so you don't even know this stuff. So I'm hipping you to some stuff that you wouldn't know unless you on the inside, right? So listen, this is important.
See that? See that?
Go ahead, Moor.
You see that secret stuff right there? See? Right there, holding your birthright, telling you the only way you're going to know is if you was in the inside. He said they kill themselves every time they talk. He said that. Only way you're going to know this information is if you on the inside. How is that? Why would somebody keep your culture, your birthright and stuff hidden? Or information with the prophet got hidden? Why? Why? And then what you're going to end up doing is paying for it, because you got to pay for the dues and the so-called dues and stuff. So it's not. They're just selling. It's back to selling packages, but it's like they busted down. But it's incredible. Like watching how he just said that, man. Like and then did the whisper and everything. Like you got to be on the inside. Like what? That's incredible. Or what? Stay black. If you're not in the FC, you're not getting this. But if you just study, you can get the information. All you gotta do is study.
That's all. All you gotta do is study.
All you gotta do is study. Most of this, everything that the prophet put out on the table, everything that we study, I just see that, oh, this just confirms what the prophet was saying. So it's not hidden. You can find it. You know what I mean? Like it's all you gotta do is study.
And recognize too that, you know, when they're saying things like membership or temple or anything like that, you're really talking about body politic. You're really talking about a self-governing jurisdiction. You're talking about a jurisdiction of self-authority. Like you're talking about jurisdiction of self-authority.
Yeah.
Right, so
real quick, Greg,
yeah, more.
You know, because you know, if Europeans was marrying into our so-called families, the word family, but they was marrying with us just so they can get some inheritance, some heir to the land, some estate. But my thing is, why wouldn't they just join the temple? They should have just joined the temple. Then maybe you could have got some heir to this. Like that's the game they played. Like these Europeans didn't join no temple, didn't look for no paperwork or nothing like that. They knew we got to get with that Moorbite. We got to get with that bloodline. That's what they knew. That's what they knew they had to do. They had to interbreed with the blood. That's why we know that it's dealing with bloodline, consanguinity, nationality, and birthright. Like even the Europeans, they didn't play that so-called, oh, well, we can just get some pay. No, they knew they gotta be with that Moabite in order to get with this heir, some ancestral anything, to get claim to anything. You gotta get with the Moabite. They didn't play club. They had to get with that Moabite.
Yep.
And they still do that to this day. Them Europeans, them Europeans know how to go back and tie themselves back to a Moor.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing they do.
Yep.
You can see it on their family crest or whatever. They quick. Moors all over their family crest.
Mm-hmm.
They make sure they tie themselves back to Moors. We tying ourselves back to what? They tie themselves back to what? Slave ships and temple memberships. They play so much games, man, with the birthright.
Playing. Yep. Church.
So the Moorish Divine and National Movement is our actual government. Okay? All right? You know, remember that. Okay, so you get the prophets materials, those at least those three things that I told you, studying that.
So you gotta get Abdullah just did a video, a 3-hour and something minute lecture on the whole thing. What It's called "What Is the Moorish Nation?" Right? He breaks down perfectly what the Moorish Nation is, showing you who the imposters is sitting in our seats. You know, like breaking it down, showing you 3 hours, answering questions, everything, destroying stuff, everything. Please watch that video, because him just saying Moorish Divine National Movement is our government, and just making it, and him saying, see, if you're not in the temple, you know, see, you playing games again. You making it seem like like no. Those imposters sitting in our seats, so those are supposed to be the viziers, imperial potentates, whatever. You're not supposed to be playing clubism and signing up to be in the temple. No, that's not how the government is. That's not what that is. Abdullah broke it down, 3-hour lecture, answering questions and everything. Please go look that up, because he's not going to just say that and make it seem like that's it. When Abdullah broke it down for 3 hours, and he's been doing this for over 20 years. Because that's just crazy. When he perfectly, like, and showing you, like, these are I think, what is it? 535, 230, I forgot. Yeah, it's like 535 congressmen and all of that sitting and breaking it down, showing you that's supposed to be all Moors. That's the problem. There's imposters sitting in our seats, and then he's making this video, making it seem like the problem is people not coming to the temple. So the problem is there's imposters sitting in our seats, and they're not trying to address the problem.
The elephant in the room. Got about 5 elephants in the room. Nobody wants to deal with it.
Right. If somebody got a 501c3 in their pocket and don't want to, because if we say something about that, then they got to say something about that.
Yeah, the Rome agreements. You know? And again, like we tell people, if you're going to agree with Rome, reserve your rights. Don't be just winging it because you say you're a Moor and all that. You better reserve your rights.
Yep.
At all times. Because these people have been playing you, like the Moor said. There's imposters in the seat. So forget the stuff about their government and all that. They're imposters. And the concept of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, having sheiks, grand governors, grand secretaries, was to teach us government. The whole point was to prepare us to take over the government. Remember we told you they were on their way. They had Oscar the Priest in. That Moors put in that seat. Keep in mind what was going on. The Great Seal was going to be, and then, which is again why CMB did what he did. Because he realized where Noble Drew Ali was going with bringing the Moors back into their nationality and birthrights. That this was way bigger than some organization, which is why he went Library of Congress. Forget some county recorder or whatever. Library of Congress. File papers there. Forget county recorder. You know, file some stuff. Let's go file it somewhere for real, for real.
know what's real and what's not. And so when you see people out here, it's like encouraging people to do things. It's kind of reckless. It's kind of out there, selling stuff, selling paperwork, saying, yo, you should do this, asking you for your personal information, so they can give you some ID card or something. You know what's real and what's not because you have the prophet's material. You can tell by what they're telling you whether they're authentic or not, right? And I'm going to give you an example. One good example, I spoke on that on a video. Check us out on YouTube if you haven't already. Subscribe to Moors in America on YouTube. But one thing that a lot of people are messing with and that they don't even realize they're like slipping up is with these declarations, right? So a lot of people, they're like, I'm not trying to mess with the temple, right? But they want to declare their nationality. All right. So what people don't realize is that what you're doing on your own, it doesn't carry the same weight.
No. Moors have to realize, again, that certain activity that you see going on today by people selling whatever like that, the foundation of that is active morals. Now, when we came into this information, the Morris Science Temple where we were at were given proclamation papers. That was part of the temple protocol. Why? Because these quote unquote representatives have had prior activity exercising with these, and they work. They're accepted. So the consensus among the temple was that we'll use these papers, right? Washita. When we first got with Brother Alim, Washita paperwork. That wasn't individual paperwork. That was paperwork with a national seal on it.
Yeah.
Remember, Great Seal Association is a national association, so it has a national seal. It has a national seal. Now we know that since other than Washita and those Moors, the only other people that had paperwork was Great Seal. They had judicial proclamation paperwork. Now we want to go back again to the online university. Again, proclamations page. A proclamation is the act of proclaiming or publishing, which is an avowal, open declaration, or a formal declaration. This act causes some state matters to be published or to be made gradually known, and by virtue of the said matter being placed in written form and issued by proper authority. So you are the proper authority. That's why you have the judicial proclamation papers. That's not individual. If there's witnesses on there, that's not individual. If the witnesses are your kin, your sisterhood and brotherhood, your nationals, then that's not individual. And anybody telling you that you having some paperwork is individual when you have witnesses on there, they don't know what they're talking about. And this is where it comes in again to individuals who, okay, backstory. So this Grand Major Temple that you hear talking about Chicago, their #1 temple or whatever, right? This is 2000s. There was corruption there. Moors from there left and said, new Grand Major Temple. The old guys didn't like that. So they infiltrated the new Grand Major people, shut that down, and then went back to doing their whatever they were doing as Grand Major Temple. To the point where they even took some people back who originally left. And now they have it again doing whatever they're doing with it. Right? Now, the fight from them comes in because, like Brother Yusuf said, they look like they're not doing their job when active Moors appear. So, for example, you have this place called, I don't know. You have this place called Arizona. And there's some people in Arizona who are supposed to be doing the work of Noble Drew Ali since 1913 to 2019.
Wow.
In the year 2000, some people pop up that realize, hey, you know what? I'm going to start doing the work that these people say that they're supposed to be doing that they're not doing. They start doing that work, and that work starts gaining momentum because, you know, nobody else is doing the work. It's pretty much a monopoly because it's just you. Control everything. These people start looking bad because the work that they're supposed to have been doing was not being done. And then now, since somebody picked up that mantle and started doing the work, now they got something to say and they got opinions and they have perspectives and they have stuff to say. When they were saying nothing before that. So the only, and again, we know Washita has their proclamation papers. We know Great Seal has their proclamation papers. Anything else, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I take it as talking crazy about our national paperwork because I don't know anybody else who tells people this process of putting the foreigners on notice of your status being corrected from the fraudulent status that they had you in all your life. And making sure that these people get put on notice, because if you don't, they're gonna assume that you're their property. They're gonna assume that, and then they're gonna have their little goons to enforce their assumptions. So you better let these people know who you are, because they go on assumption. They don't go on innocent or guilty or whatever. They go on assumption. And we'll see what happens later. So as soon as they start talking about there's Moors out there who, and they start talking about declaring paperwork, and they start throwing in UCCs and birth certificates or whatever, when they're also talking about declarations, that's to cause confusion. Because the declaration claiming papers have nothing to do with filing any type of other papers with anybody that's claiming there's some type of authority to accept filings for papers.
Right.
They're not the same. They're completely different. Don't tell me some authenticate something is the same as declaration of nationality papers. They're not the same. And the only reason they would do that is, again, to cause confusion, to have you second guessing now, well, did I do the right thing by having these papers and all that? A lot more. You have anything to add?
This listening to you go in Grand Sheet over and over again. It's just the confusion that they get by with. You know what I mean? Like, and again, if you listen to Abdullah's lecture, he goes in on the sellout, because the sellout is very real. This it causes a lot of confusion, makes it more, because even people will say it too, like they notice like the Moors got a lot of confusion. You know what I mean? There's certain Moors saying this, but knowing that we're all Moors, it's just because people are saying different things, it causes a lot of confusion.
Right.
But at the same time, you can't. When you sit there and you think about it for a second, you can't really blame the confusion on the people who talking or spreading it. People need to study.
Yeah.
The people need to take responsibility once again.
Mm-hmm.
Stop playing the victim role and be studying on their own. Because once you're studying on your own, there is no confusion. So again, you got to be looking at the people again. Like, people just want a genie bottle. Like, okay, there's confusion there, but like, did you even study? Did you go look it up for yourself, or you just seen some they're debating and all of that, and you took it for what you saw with that? You can tell people aren't studying, because if you're studying, you'll see it. It's clear. And that's another thing. People who who even speak of the confusion being spreaded, just by saying that, you can tell that they're not studying. Because you would know it's not no confusion. It's just dirty Moors.
Straight.
Playing games.
No confusion. Everything's clear. Been clear. Been clear.
We're not Negro, color, black. Those are colonists. We're under colonization. Like, it's real. It's clear. It's real clear.
Yeah.
It's real clear. Somebody killed the prophet. Tried to make it seem like it wasn't what it was. Don't want to read his readings to be his teachings to be. His readings to be read every meeting. Because once you hear what he was saying, you already know. The prophet knew that it was something going on.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling you back then. It's Moors that's going against your prophet. And he ain't say nothing else about nobody outside of his bloodline, his people. He was talking about the people inside his own house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the letters they don't want to read. We're going to tell you if you were there. Only way you're gonna get this information is if you were the inside. That was incredible. I'll never forget that. Never. Never. Moors, they playing games. Don't want to do nothing for nothing for birthright. They just say they Moors like that's just like clubism.
Yeah. The Moorish club.
Yeah, like it's a like it's a tag or something like like something you wear to work on your shirt.
Pull it out when they gotta do work.
Yep.
Because when Prophet Noble Drew Ali came, everything that he did, from the stances that he was doing to the handshakes, the verbs and nouns that he was using, the way that he was speaking, let people in power in positions of authority know that he's the real deal when he says he's an Egyptian native, and that the information that he's bringing is the real deal. So when he's a legit.
No, let's put this on the record. Brother Supreme L out here went to a tribunal one time, and at that time he was using an Egyptian name. So tell him put his appellation on the record. He said it. Judge stopped what he was doing at the stuff, looked up at him, held the glasses and looked over the top of the glasses and asked him, "Isn't that an Egyptian god?"
Yep. See that?
Right? So let these people fool you with their little Noble Drew Ali stories because he stood a certain way or whatever, that some whatever. Ain't nothing like that. The work that this man did to save his people is what people recognize. The work that he did. Not the little stuff that he did for the Moors who, they were still children, so they needed questionnaire or whatever. Other nationals. But we say that recognized as the Egyptian adept, as if he had to coerce them with hand gestures to believe he was who he was.
Right.
It's not a club. That wasn't the case for any prophet. Any of the prophets had to do some hand gestures or whatever to prove something to these foreigners who were trying to mess with the people. All of them, it was works and deeds. What did they do? Don't be fooled. Because see people dress up and stuff like that in front of a flag and think that they got some authority.
Prophet, from a Masonic stance, he's a prophet. Okay, from leadership standpoint, they recognize him. Okay, as a head of state, as a prophet. Okay, so when he comes and he sets up
So if he's recognized as a head of state, then this is not about a club.
Yep.
If the club guys are telling you, yeah, this is a club or whatever, and Noble Drew Ali is recognized as the head of state, what does that have to do with clubs? What does that have to do with adept chambers and these games that people are playing? if he's recognized as a head of state, which means that they know that this is about civics, if he's recognized as a head of state. Remember, these are the same people tell you this is divine and national and religious affidavit filed and all that stuff. If he's recognized as a head of state, then that means this is not about some religious anything. This is about government. And the point of the people governing themselves. But even Noble Drew Ali said we are a nation.
A religious society where we have the freedom to practice and do as we believe, including declare our nationality to get up out of these labels, it was authentic. It is authentic. It still is. All right? And so that...
It's only authentic with the ones that teach it from a civics perspective.
Right.
It's not authentic if it's just taught religious. It's not authentic if people are going to a Moor Science temple, they think they're in church. It's not authentic if temples aren't doing humanitarian work in the communities where they exist. It's not organic if none of the sheiks, none of the sheikhs, none of the governors or anybody has any literature that they put out to influence the people into the knowledge about their birthright that they don't know about. It's not authentic if people came yesterday and they're trying to convince you that they're the guru of something. That's why we always give the reference point people before us. Because we ain't nobody. We just came yesterday. There's people who've been Moors and exercising this. Not for themselves. For us to be able to say that we're Moors right now and exercise something.
Yep.
Moors that you never even know about. They got Moors who went to lectures and they're bringing their children knowing who Kudro is. It ain't about what we're doing. It's about what we influence people to do. You influence the people to the point of them fixing their life. Because of you being on a certain frequency with that individual. So it ain't about you. Always goes back to those before us. Because the days will be short if you don't honor the foremothers and forefathers. But some people don't want to honor the pure and de jure ones. They want to honor the de facto forefathers. They want to honor the dirty Moors and keep pushing their teachings that they've been using to confuse these masses about their birthright, having them looking at the Moors as this some confusion and stuff. I don't want nothing to do with that. Because they want to play games with the birthright.
That's how you have the ability to do this, by going within this system, this society that's set up for us, right? So that's authentic. That's real. And that's recognized because he's recognized. All right. So people are trying to do it outside of that, maybe because you're just getting the information from all over the place and you don't really know what to do with it. Maybe you even try to go to the temple and the people there was whack. You know, I'm not gonna lie, you know, some people whack. They're not doing what they supposed to. Some ain't doing anything. You know, because like me personally, if you got a temple and you're not running businesses, you know what I'm saying? And that brother just asked a question, maybe I get that. But if you're not running businesses, you know?
Good work.
If you got a temple and you're not running business, yo, you know what, yo, Grand Sheik, yo, when you go to a church, right, on the front door it says business hours. So as soon as he said that, that's all I thought about. As soon as he said that, like, if you not, like, what do you mean? If you, what? He said, when you temple business, that's not even supposed to be in the same sentence. I don't even know how he got that. Where did he get that concept? I've never even heard that.
Oh, hold on one sec, boy. Hold on. Please, boy. Islam. Hold on, let me just merge you quick fast. 1 second. Peace, you there?
Yeah.
Islam. You just want to put your appellation on the record since you wanted to call live. You got stuff to talk about.
Islam, I'm Khalifa Bey.
Islam, brother. So what's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Okay, several things. So I tried to, you know what I mean, try to be humble and just hold it in, but I can't do that right now. The spirit is working. So all right, so listening to him. And I used to watch his video. I watched him a little bit in the beginning, but something wasn't right. And so I think for Moors that have a foundation, so I come in from metaphysics. So Bobby Hemmett, C. Freeman L., those people were my foundation. So the first time I ever heard Noble Drew Ali was from Bobby Hemmett. He said, you need to watch a European, I think it was European Confessions of a Moorish Legacy.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to go and watch Rick Smith. I think it's still on YouTube. European Confessions of a Moorish Legacy.
Peace to Rick Smith.
So, yes, Islam to him, because I think it's very imperative that we skipped over that he said masonry. We got to go back to the Hermetics of the universal principles that this all comes through. So, masonry, that's the watered down stuff. That's not the real science. And he's talking about this is real. This is an illusion. This is not real. This is an illusion. So we are divine beings manifested in the flesh, but this isn't real. You can't get caught up into what's real and if it's one-dimensional or even three-dimensional. So when you don't have a foundation, and you can see in his speaking that he's vague. He doesn't have a specific example of something fraudulent. He's all over the place. He's amen and okay, and we don't have time for that. So the Moors that are coming in that have eyes to see and ears to hear, you need to have a foundation. So it's great to know that you're a Moor, and it's great to be able to say that you got taxes off. That's wonderful. But you still have to spiritually develop. This isn't about even him wearing his Wahhabi gear, but we kind of get lost in the sauce of the battle, and I think that takes us from the spiritual development of what we need to be working on, the temple of man, the idea of us elevating into those higher levels of perfection, which is looking inside, going into self. So I know that, my brethren Cujo, he goes in on the dirty, slick, slimy Moors, but those of you that are paying attention or that will see this, you have to really go inside and work on self, because we cannot just get so caught up with the battlefield. We know that government didn't only have soldiers. They had magi. They had strategists. They had people that had different perspectives. So we have to be all facets of the master. So we proclaim these things, but we got to put them into application. And so I'm a nerd. I've always been a nerd. Cujo thinks that I'm not a nerd, but I am. And so I think that you guys, especially my sisters, I think that when we have knowledge of self, it changes the whole vibration of what we're doing. And when you see someone who, before he said 3 words, this guy is full of it. He's not on balance. And at some point, it's like I don't even get mad anymore. I get frustrated because I was looking at the chat and some of the things that 1 or 2 of the people were saying, and I'm like, oh man, it's always 1 or 2. But I just kind of wanted to put that on the record that this is not real. That masonry is not some kind of checking card. We got to go back to the roots. We got to go back to those universal principles, those hermetic principles, the Hootie, Thoth, those things, even actually Atlantean. So apparently, according to the Emerald Tablet, he came from Atlantis before he went over there. So he's not from there. So we really got to do some internal self-study. And as much as I know, I like to have my scimitar out, chopping heads off, but we got to have a foundation. We got to have people that are able to acknowledge and see the BS and expect that it's going to come.
Yeah.
It's not personal. You just got to know that it's going to come. And sometimes, Kuda's like, oh, I want you to share something. I want you to...
Oh no, you do your thing, yo. You do your thing. Don't even worry. I'm thinking about some questions right now.
But I just think that it's a lot of us Moors that we don't want to be in the spotlight. We just like to, do our work and be active in our ways. But I think that we have to be not just grounded, because again, it's an illusion. Because we're elements. And we, once we depart, we hopefully will ascend to somewhere else and do other things. So I think that's the trick with it, is that the appearance, the deception, it's like acting. All the world's a stage. And so we know more. Well, we are so dramatic and we love the spotlight. But you can see that this brother, he's definitely not on the one. And I'll just yield the floor on that one.
Islam. Bro Yusuf.
Wow.
You got anything else?
I was just listening to the mother. That was it. Just listening to the mother go in.
I'm gonna give him a treat right now. So just quick question with as far as the going within, what's some direction you can give people as far as going within?
Now the standard thing, and I know that astrology is like the hot thing that people are into, but you can look at your natal chart, your trinity, your sun, moon, and ascending. But even within that, think about your journey and how you got here. Think about how you have behaved before you declared and proclaimed you were Moor. How have you dealt with the relations between, your kinfolk, associates, friends? Because I know a lot of people that exist in, I don't even think it's a quarter dimension. They are, Shabaka El online, but, their actions, their thoughts, their carrying themselves, how they talk to people, it's not in line with the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Mm-hmm. So I think that, again, it's great that we know that we're Moors and we have hopefully stopped the cycle But we have to make sure that we know how to treat each other. Because before I got into really engaging with people in the so-called conscious community, it's some really interesting entities that are interesting or acting in the community. So when you have a foundation, or you're able to be honest with self, and we're not talking about your ego. We're not talking about what you like and your favorite shoes or your favorite rapper or your favorite TV show. We're talking about that ancient part of you. When you recognize people and you see them coming, and sometimes you may, get hurt. You may get lied on. Like all these things in the internal, outside of your natal chart, and you can tell me all that wonderful things, but how do you treat people? Are you a woman or man of your word? Are you really living according to those principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice? So that's just basic 101 of when we come together, we see each other, we know it's always going to be some good times, but we really have to work on how we treat each other and making sure that we are honorable. Because at the end of the day, we already know we've been here a long time. And like the prophet said, those who were with him then are with him now. Those who were against him then are against him now. So we already know what we're working up against. But those of us that are claiming to do these things, we have to make sure that we treat each other with respect and actually honoring self. So I think that's step one. There's many books, but I think a lot of it is reflection, because when you're able to be around other Moors who journeyed a different path than you, a lot of times it's just good to listen and observe, and you get to see where people are in their journey.
Right.
So I think that there's more than one way to go in and reawaken yourself, reacquaint yourself with your spirit guide, your spirit animal. You have to go in, and I think it's one of the elders. I can't think of who it is. She always talks about the exorcism, like all of that nasty, negative, mean, evil stuff that you did to people. That's still sitting out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes when we become more declare to proclaim, I got all IDs and all this stuff, but you were an asshole to people. You were mean. You did some really wicked shit.
Karmic debt.
And you have to atone for that. You have to. So like we know the Ashkenazis have the scapegoat, literally.
Yeah.
Like their Yom Kippur. So on that fall equinox, they have their atonement. So we know that this is planting season, right? We know that we're planting seeds to harvest 6 months from now. But we have to atone from stuff from years and years of things. So there's a lot of work that we have to do. And so that's why it's always interesting to hear people say, like, y'all ain't got no schools, y'all don't have this, y'all don't have that. We have to have individuals that are solid, that are unshakable. Like you can resist temptation. They bring this honey pot in, and she got a turban on, and she's talking the right language. And the brother's like, oh, I'm already like, oh, he about to get it. He don't even know. So it's like, how are you able to maintain with everything that appears? Like he keeps talking about these illusions.
Yeah.
Like it may look good. Like with my grandma, everything that looks good for you ain't good. It's everything that looks good is not good for you. So I think that these basic principles, they kind of get lost because I don't know why they get lost, but I think that because it's a constant battle. Like I don't know how many times Cujo has done these videos, probably thousands of them, where he has to go through, because you got new Moors coming in, you got people that have not experienced it, and I think someone mentioned in the chat, they got questions, but they not Googling, they're not buying any books. Like, so this is for all my newly awakened Moors. Start asking questions. And I'm saying this in a really honorable intent. take some notes. How many references do you hear Moors make and you have not written them down, or you have paused the video to Google what they're saying? Or I got to get that book, or I got to get this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when they have people that go into the monastery, they have vows of silence. So I know that we're curious. I know that we want to get things with, like an Amazon Prime delivery within 2 days. We got to know right now. But I think it's imperative to reflect. So even if it's doing voice notes on your phone, questions you have or things that you're going to research, or just take some notes. But you guys have too many questions and you haven't done enough studying yet. Like it's the way that the Moors that I studied, if I had ever met them in my first year, I would have said nothing, because I'm absorbing and learning just from me. That's the first step in the scientific process, is observation. And I think a lot of times Moors are quick to say something or get mad or go off, and they're not even observing the environment. So, Islam.
Okay, one more question. One more question. Give me one inspiring Moorish story you have. I know you got stories.
Oh, one?
Well, I mean, if you want to give more, you can give more if you want, but especially because I know there's some mothers in the chat too, so especially for them,
okay.
With regard to whatever you think they need to know.
Okay, so I'll give a couple of them that are at the top of my head right now. I think it was like 2011, 12. I think it was 11 or 12. I can't remember. And it's the first time I really, because I had locks. And so I was like, my locks getting long. I got to, wear my turban. And I remember I was on the train, on the metro. And I'm not from D.C., but I've been here a couple years to know that, people don't make eye contact. Like, you just kind of keep your head down and, like, you don't want no problems. So start done, won't be done kind of thing. So I noticed this, I think he was Hindustani, Pakistan, somewhere around there, Nepal. And he was like, "Can I take your photo?" Now, if this had been any other day, I hadn't had my turban on, because, people, it's a different kind of interaction. And so I acquiesced. And I remember this lady kind of looked at me and kind of was like, "Are you someone famous?" Like, I guess he just wanted a picture of him or my turban on. And I just, it was just like, and at the time, I didn't even like, you're going from place to place. You're not really, you're just like, all right, she's cool. And I think when I traveled to Hindustan and went to the Taj Mahal, because that was like the first time we were there that we were around a lot of locals. We weren't just, moving from place to place on a train or plane or whatever. And so I had 3 or 4 people stop me to get my photo. And when I was, this is probably a year or 2 later, I didn't have a turban or fez on or a tarbush or anything on. I had on a T-shirt with the Moorish flag on it. I'm going to the dentist. I'm running late. Like, oh man, I got to get to the dentist. And this amalgamated Moor, he stopped me. He said, "Well, I'd just like to ask you, where did you get your shirt from?" I got it from here. He said, "You didn't get it from Morocco?" I said, "This is Morocco." And he looked at me. He said, I just want to be clear." He said, "You got your shirt here?" I said, "Yeah, this is Maghreb Al-Aqsa." And he came over to me, hugged me, and I never saw him again.
Wow.
Now, a couple years later, there's not quite a vegan, but I try to not to eat a lot of dairy at all, anything. I used to go to this pizza spot, get a slice of pizza and fries, and it was a lot of Moroccans from over there that working there. So I came, because I've been me for so long, I don't pay attention, So I probably had my turban up, and I, gave my nationality card so he could, they're like, no tax, she's good, she's, whatever. And so he's like, so you going to Morocco? I said, I'm in Morocco. So he said, yeah, I know that, but are you going to that Morocco over there? I said, yeah.
Wow.
So, so it's interesting because when I was at the kingdom over there, there were certain individuals as you're moving through like the marketplaces, because touristy areas, they're kind of hip to some of the things. But I think at the end of the day, when you talk about knowing who you are, it's like you kind of forget. It's like I don't ever think I called myself black, right? Like it's like you lose that connection to whatever that's why this can't be real, because it doesn't seem like that ever was a part of my concept of time and space. So when I was in Ethiopia this past summer, and there was a older European, she lives in South Africa, and I always have like a T-shirt or something that has Moor on it or something, Yeah, you gotta show everybody what's going on.
You gotta show them something.
So, we've been out doing something. So you shower, and I think I had on my shirt, I think it was something like, I'm not black, I'm a Moor. So I can't think of what you, or it might have been something with Noble Petroleum. I'm not sure what it was. And so, again, this older guy, I know he had been in some kind of, elk or Mason. He's been in some little whatever. He got a couple of degrees or something. So he sees this guy with a fez on, or, he's in habit. Who's this guy? El Haj, and I tell him, who he is. And so I said, yeah, well, he brought us back to realizing that we were not, Indians, Negro, colors, black, African Americans, that were Moor. And the old European lady says, like, she said, yes, like the Moor in the Merchant of Venice. She's talking about Shakespeare, Othello.
Yeah.
I said, no, like the ancient priest in Egypt, the Moor, the high priest of Anu. Not that. Cyrus. So, there's, I could just, go on and on and on. But it's funny because now I wear my little tarbush or sometimes my fast to school. And my students, oh man, so much fun. So this one little joker, man, he's a rough brother. That brother got some stuff going on. And so he was like, Miss Gray, I don't know what that is, but I know you're going to give me a story on your head, but I like it. And so, we're cracking up laughing. And one of the young guys, he came up to me and said, I know how you are about your personal cycle, so I'm going to respect it. But he's like, what is that called? I said, it's a tarbush, it's a fez, it's a part of a headdress. And one of the other people said, hey man, don't get too close to Miss Bay, yo. She don't play like that. I'm like, can you just let me talk, please? So it's very interesting as you demonstrate certain things, and I'm always very careful, or even if you're watching someone, to evidence-based. I don't even have to say anything. So it's something with this generation where they know that there are things that don't add up. They're very open to it, but they also are not very forgiving. So if you violate the trust, if you try to half-step them or lie to them, they don't really give you a second chance. So I think for everyone that's out there, you just got to be yourself. There's not one way you need to be. You just need to be who you are. And that's what the prophet told us. I'm just trying to get you to be yourself. And so we know that we've come through different geographic locations, religious, the principles, and even the dogma through time. But I think that when you are really being yourself, you don't really have to worry about things because it's going to work out because it's designed. Mm-hmm. And you have everything that you need to know right now. You'll learn it and you will master it. And their example will have other people wanting to know things based off of your example. So I think that when you just be yourself and you do work on self, then things will come to you. Like you'll have answers that you don't know. It's many times I'm like, I did not know that. How in the heck did I answer that question? Because I didn't know that. These things happen. That's how we know it's not real. We could go on forever with things unexplained because this isn't real. So I think that, again, honor to you guys for knowing who you are, but we got to put work in on who we are with self and with each other. And you got to atone for those things that you did. Some of y'all did some wicked stuff back in the day. Some of y'all might have had to mace you or stab you or something. Some of y'all was dirty. So y'all got to really atone for that. And so I know that it's so convenient to be like, man, you stupid, you didn't know this or that. No. Because once upon a time, you didn't know. But I do think that we got to put in some work and make sure that that we're very careful with how we treat each other because people are watching. And they'll watch this and dissect this and all that stuff. But that's just part and parcel of what's divine. Like, it's inescapable. So, Islam and here before.
Islam.
Yeah.
Give thanks for that. On that, one other thing to also bring up is that they told you how they do the SPLC and tie the Moors to that, and SPLC being a fraud. They're also trying to tie active Moors to the BIE still, and using the BIE as a reference point to say why you shouldn't be a quote-unquote Moorish national, or you shouldn't handle national affairs as a Moor. This is all part of, cause the confusion with people thinking that, some act or whatever has jurisdiction over their birthright, because they're mentioning it in these documents under the guise of tying that activity to criminal behavior, when that's not what's happening. So we just want to close out with the hearing on the BIE report. Remember, like we said with SPLC, many recognized people consider that a fraud and anything that comes from them a fraud. So when you hear Moors try to throw Moors under the bus by tying it to something SPLC said, that we're sovereign citizens and we're Moorish sovereigns and whatever, that's colorable. That doesn't have any power at law. Before I play this, Brother Yusuf, you got anything to add in?
Not on the DIE, but I just wanted to read something real quick for the mother.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Real quick, it says I am nature, the universal mother, mistress of all the elements. primordial child of time, sovereign of all things, spiritual queen of the dead. Though I am worshipped in many aspects, known by countless names, propitiated with all manner of different rites, yet the whole world round earth venerates me. That's from Lucius Apelius, from the goddesses symbols. It's about the first gods were women. That's what the book is about. So I had to add that on because the mother just went in.
Islam. Islam. And,
wow.
and that's how the Most High works when you're on your game. You get those secret ones. So Islam to all the Moors who receive something from the message. And once again, before we close out, we're just gonna listen to this. Those 6 minutes. And oh yeah, don't forget, no more daily.com. No more daily.com and morrisdirectory.com. Mother Khalifa, you have any closing remarks or any more slaps?
No, I just think give thanks for you allowing me your special quality time with the Lord. And see you soon.
Oh, most definitely. It's love, Wars.
Thank you, sir. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Bass, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Director, for being here with us today. And I also want to thank you for the time that you spent a week or so ago with representatives of the Congressional Black Caucus following up on the Black identity extremists. And I would like to ask you questions following up from that meeting. We raised a number of concerns, one of which the idea that document was distributed to law enforcement nationwide, and also the concern that the message that sends to many local law enforcement agencies and how you distinguish between what might be problematic behavior and also what is people just exercising their First Amendment rights. And so one of the questions that we asked you that I wanted to follow up on is if you've learned any more about what criteria, evidence, methodology that was used to even come up with that category of Black identity extremists.
Congresswoman, as I think I may have mentioned in our meeting, the analysis that occurred there involved which is our standard practice for one of these products, and we issue them across all of our various program categories, is to take both so-called open source information, which is what the intelligence community would call it,
right,
and our own ongoing investigations, of which there are many, and mesh them together with other information and try to make sure that the information that we're speaking on, that those two things align. As to your concerns, and we discussed them, and I hope I found the conversation constructive hearing your concerns, and I hope you did too. We take respect for the First Amendment very seriously. And in this context, as in every other domestic terrorism context, we want to be very clear with people and all the American people that we do not investigate rhetoric, ideology, opinion,
right,
no matter who might consider it extremist. What we do investigate is when rhetoric, ideology, opinion takes that next step into the category of federal crime and in particular violence.
Exactly, and I did find our conversation constructive. There did seem to be several things that I know you were going to follow up on, and so you were clear about the three categories that were reasons for investigation. And one of the things that I mentioned to you is the difference, and we talked about this, the difference between an investigation and surveillance. So you have the surveillance activity that may or may not lead to an investigation. And so what a number of activists are complaining about around the country is the increase of surveillance, being visited by FBI agents, having FBI agents come to their house, leaving their business cards. And so that, was a concern. And what was that really based on? So these are activists that are protesting because of community police relations, because of killings that might have happened, a variety of reasons. Some of this is, it might be protests that have taken place in Baltimore and several of the cities around the country. And so I want to know if there's any additional information that you have found from that. What is happening in your offices around the country where activists are complaining of this?
I have, after our meeting, I did farm out a whole number of follow-up questions to people. I will confess that I've been fairly busy lately and have not yet gotten the results of those, but we will continue to look into those questions.
Okay, we really need to do that because let me just explain to you that one of the things that all of us would like to take place in our communities is for our communities to cooperate with law enforcement. But at this point in time, to have FBI agents come by people's house after peaceful demonstrations, I know I can't recommend that they speak to the FBI. I have to tell them that they can't speak to the FBI because if you do say something and you innocently say something that might not be true, then that person feels as though they might be entrapped because they could be charged with lying to an FBI agent. And so to find the information out as soon as possible, I think is really important. I want our community to participate, but we can't participate if it's not really clear where the FBI is coming from. So many organizations have called for the withdrawal of the BIE designation, in particular NOBLE, which is the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. And so in light of the public outcry, including from law enforcement, I want to know if part of the follow-up from our meeting is if you are considering retracting that category of Black identity extremists and then sending out clarification to law enforcement around the country that that category really doesn't exist.
I think what we're doing right now is what we would normally do with any intelligence assessment, which is we continue to evaluate the data as it rolls in. The intelligence assessment in question was a snapshot in time. And as we get more information that comes in from all quarters, considering all sorts of information, I expect that we will update that information in an appropriate way. And depending on what the information shows, it could be anything from a reaffirmance to a retraction to a clarification. It just depends on what the information shows. But the one thing we will not do is withdraw intelligence assessments based on public outcry. I'm sure you can understand why that's not an approach that ultimately will stand us.
Okay, well, I want to continue to be in contact with you for this because I think one of the points that we made to you, and I really hope you take it seriously, is the harm that that document is causing. Because what that says, it sends a chill to activists around the country. And my big concern is that local law enforcement will misinterpret that and will clamp down on people exercising their First Amendment right.
Time of the gentlewoman has